Karan and Meera had been married for 7 years. Their life together was not perfect, but it was filled with laughter, playful fights, and the kind of small dramas that made their bond stronger. Karan was a simple man who loved routine. He enjoyed little things like making tea for Meera every morning or holding her hand when they went out together. Meera, on the other hand, was full of energy. She loved dressing up, meeting friends, and being the center of attention in social gatherings. One evening, they attended a friend's wedding reception. The hall was beautifully decorated. The music was loud, and people were laughing and enjoying themselves. Karan, as usual, tried to stay close to Meera. He reached out to hold her hand while they were talking with friends. Meera, with a playful smile, quickly pulled her hand away and said loudly enough for everyone to hear, "Don't touch me in public, Karan. It looks so awkward." Everyone laughed, thinking it was just a harmless joke. Karan also forced a smile, but inside he felt a little hurt. For him, holding hands was not embarrassing. It was his way of showing love. But Meera seemed more worried about appearances than about his feelings. On the way back home, Karan kept thinking about it. Meera had not meant any harm. He knew that. She was joking, as she often did. Still, her words echoed in his mind. "Don't touch me in public." It felt like she was pushing him away. That night, while lying in bed, an idea came into Karan's mind. If Meera could set rules in public, maybe he should also set some rules at home. A small smile spread across his face as he thought of his plan. It was not meant to be serious, just a little revenge, a joke to balance her joke. He decided he would do something that would make her feel what he had felt. And so, without realizing it, a simple joke between husband and wife was about to turn into something much bigger. The next morning, Karan woke up early, still thinking about Meera's words from the night before. He laughed at himself while making tea. "Don't touch me in public, huh? All right then, let's see how you like it when I put some limits too." After breakfast, while Meera was getting ready to go shopping with a friend, Karan quietly collected all the credit cards from her purse. He placed them safely in his office drawer and locked it. He also changed the password of their online banking account. It was not something he usually did, but this time he wanted to play his little game. Later that day, Meera went to her favorite coffee shop. She ordered her usual latte and pulled out her card. To her surprise, the transaction was declined. She frowned, tried again, and the same thing happened. Embarrassed, she paid with some loose cash from her wallet. When she came home, she told Karan about it, thinking it must be a bank problem. Karan smiled and said calmly, "Oh no, the card is fine. I just thought since you don't want me to touch you in public, maybe you shouldn't touch my cards in private." Meera laughed at first, thinking he was joking. "Very funny, Karan. Now give me the card." But Karan just shrugged and said, "Rules are rules. You don't want me touching you in front of others. I don't want you touching the cards." At first, Meera thought it was silly. She teased him and ignored it. But when she tried to shop online in the evening and couldn't make a payment, she realized he was serious. "What is this, Karan? Are you really doing this?" she asked, half laughing, half annoyed. Karan replied with a smirk, "Only fair, isn't it?" Meera shook her head, still believing it was just harmless fun. But inside, she felt a little uneasy. She didn't know then that this small prank would grow into something neither of them expected. The next few days were not easy for Meera. What she thought would be a short-lived joke stretched on and on. Every time she tried to use her credit card, it was either missing from her purse or blocked. She even asked Karan once, "Are you really going to keep this up?" But he only smiled and replied, "Of course. Didn't you say rules are rules?" At first, Meera laughed it off, but soon it started to bother her. She loved shopping online, buying little things for herself, and even sending surprise gifts to friends. Now she had to ask Karan for cash like a teenager asking for pocket money. It made her feel powerless. One afternoon, she had an appointment at the salon. When it was time to pay, her card didn't work again. Embarrassed, she called Karan from the counter. "Karan, please, can you unlock my card? This is ridiculous." Karan chuckled over the phone and said, "Why don't you just carry cash? It's safer anyway." Meera was angry but didn't want to make a scene. She paid with some leftover money in her bag and walked out with a frown. Things only got worse when she went shopping with her friends. While everyone else swiped their cards easily, Meera had to tell the cashier she didn't have enough balance. Her friends looked surprised, and she felt humiliated. She tried to laugh it off, saying, "Oh, Karan is being silly with money matters." But deep inside, she was frustrated. At home, she confronted him. "Enough, Karan. This joke is not funny anymore. I can't even buy basic things without begging you. Do you even realize how embarrassing this is?" Karan, sitting comfortably on the sofa, replied calmly, "Now you know how I felt when you pushed me away in front of everyone. You made me feel unwanted. This is just a taste of your own medicine." Meera's eyes widened. "You're comparing money to love? Seriously?" Karen's voice grew firmer. "It's not about money, Meera. It's about respect. You made me feel small in front of people. I just wanted you to understand." Meera fell silent for a moment, then walked away, shaking her head. What started as a playful exchange was slowly turning into something heavier. Both of them felt hurt, but neither wanted to step back first. The little game had become a battle of pride, and it was only a matter of time before it went too far. The tension between Karan and Meera kept growing, and soon it reached a point where even small things turned into arguments. They stopped joking with each other the way they once did. Meals became quieter, and evenings felt heavier. Both of them were holding on to their pride, waiting for the other to give in first. The real breaking point came one Friday evening. Meera had been invited to a dinner with her colleagues. Karan joined her because it was at a nice restaurant and many couples were coming. Meera dressed beautifully, smiling as she greeted her friends, but inside she was nervous. She knew her cards were still blocked. When the bill arrived at the end of the meal, everyone reached for their wallets. Meera tried to act casual as she gave her card, praying it would work this time. But as expected, the transaction failed. The waiter looked at her politely and said, "I'm sorry, ma'am. It was declined." Her cheeks turned red. She tried again, but it failed once more. Some of her colleagues exchanged looks. A male colleague, Rohit, quickly offered, "Don't worry, Meera. I'll cover for you." Though he meant well, it stung. Karan watched the scene with clenched fists. He hated that another man was stepping in, not because of money, but because his own wife was embarrassed in front of everyone. On the way home, the car was filled with silence until Meera finally burst out. "Do you see what your stupid game has done? I was humiliated in front of my colleagues today. Do you even care?" Karan shot back, his voice tight with anger. "And do you care how I felt when you pushed me away in public? Do you know what it's like to feel unwanted by your own wife?" Meera looked at him, shocked. "You're comparing a silly joke to this humiliation? I was only teasing you, Karan." "And I was only trying to show you how it feels," he shouted. The argument went deeper. Meera admitted she sometimes felt suffocated by his constant affection in public. "It makes me uncomfortable." "It doesn't mean I don't love you," she said, her voice breaking. Karan, still angry, confessed, "I just want to feel that you're proud to have me by your side. But when you make fun of me in front of others, it cuts deep." The car fell silent again. Both of them had finally said things they had been holding inside for a long time. But instead of bringing them closer, the words built a wall of pain and misunderstanding between them. That night, they slept on opposite sides of the bed, both staring at the ceiling, both wondering how a small joke had turned their marriage into such a cold battlefield. The days after the dinner fight were the hardest. Karan and Meera lived under the same roof, but it felt like two strangers sharing a house. Conversations became short and formal. "Tea?" "Yes." "Dinner?" "Later." The warmth that once filled their home was gone. Karan kept to himself, spending more time at work or reading in the living room. Meera stayed in the bedroom or buried herself in her phone. The silence between them was louder than any argument. At first, Karan felt justified. He thought, she finally knows what it feels like. Maybe now she'll understand. But slowly, that satisfaction faded. Every time he saw Meera's sad face or heard her sigh in frustration, his heart ached. He had never seen her this distant before. Meera, on the other hand, was angry but also hurt. She replayed the dinner scene in her head again and again. The embarrassment of her card being declined, Her colleague paying the bill, Karen watching it all, it haunted her. She thought, why did I ever joke about not wanting him to touch me? I never imagined it would lead to this. The home that used to be full of laughter now felt cold. Even small things like eating together or watching TV felt forced. Nights were the worst. They lay in the same bed, but as far from each other as possible, each lost in their own thoughts. One evening, Meera's mother called. Hearing her daughter's dull voice, she asked, "Is everything all right, Beta?" Meera quickly said, "Yes, Ma, just tired." But after the call, she broke down in tears. She didn't want her family to know that a silly fight had grown into such a heavy silence. Karan noticed her crying, but didn't go to comfort her. His pride held him back. Yet inside, guilt was eating him alive. He thought of all the times Meera had made sacrifices for him, the nights she stayed up when he worked late, the times she cheered him up when he was low. And here he was, punishing her over a joke. Meera, too, realized her mistake. She never meant to insult Karen's love in public. But instead of explaining gently, she had laughed at him. That must have hurt him deeply. Both of them wanted to talk, to apologize, to end the Cold War. But pride kept them silent. Each one waited for the other to take the first step. And so the distance grew. What started as a playful exchange had now created a crack in their marriage, one that neither knew how to close. It was a rainy evening when the turning point finally came. Meera was driving back from the market when her car suddenly broke down on a busy road. The rain was pouring heavily, and cars honked as she tried to restart the engine. Frustrated and a little scared, she called Karan. For a moment, she hesitated. After so many days of silence, would he even come? But before she could finish explaining, Karan said firmly, "Stay where you are. I'm on my way." Within 20 minutes, Karan arrived, drenched from running in the rain after parking his bike nearby. He didn't say much. He simply opened the hood, checked the engine, and arranged for a mechanic. Then he held his umbrella over Meera so she wouldn't get wet while he stood in the rain himself. For the first time in weeks, Meera felt the warmth she had been missing. She looked at him and realized that no matter how angry or hurt they both were, his care for her had never changed. On the way home, the silence between them was different, softer, almost ready to break. That night, after dinner, Meera finally spoke. "Karan, I'm sorry. I didn't realize how much my words hurt you that day. I should never have made that joke." Karan looked at her for a long moment. His pride wanted to stay quiet, but his heart didn't. He sighed and said, "And I'm sorry too, Meera. I took it too far. I thought I was teaching you a lesson, but instead, I just pushed you away." They both laughed weakly at how childish it all sounded now. What had started as a silly joke and a playful revenge had turned into weeks of pain. That night, for the first time in many days, they held hands as they fell asleep. It wasn't just about forgiveness. It was about realizing that love could survive mistakes if both hearts were willing to bend. The next morning felt lighter, almost as if the rain had washed away the heavy air between them. For the first time in weeks, Karan and Meera sat together at breakfast, smiling shyly like a couple rediscovering each other. Karan placed a small box on the table. Meera raised her eyebrows, curious. Inside were her credit cards. "Safe and sound," he said with a playful grin. "I think it's time they returned to their rightful owner." Meera laughed, shaking her head. "Finally, I was starting to feel like a schoolgirl asking for pocket money." Then her voice softened. "But, Karan, I get it now. I shouldn't have made fun of you in front of others. Holding hands, a hug, even a touch, it's your way of showing love. I didn't respect that." Karan reached for her hand across the table. "And I should have spoken to you instead of punishing you. I let my hurt turn into pride. That wasn't fair either." They agreed to set better boundaries. Karan promised to tone down public affection if Meera felt uncomfortable, but only if Meera promised never to mock his love again. "Deal," she said, sealing it with a genuine smile. Later that week, they attended another gathering with friends. This time, when Karan reached for her hand, Meera didn't pull away. Instead, she squeezed it gently and leaned closer. The gesture was small, but to Karan, it felt huge. Their friends teased them. saying, "Looks like someone is in a romantic mood." Meera simply smiled, no longer embarrassed. She had learned that love should never be hidden behind jokes. As they walked back to their car, Karen whispered, "So, no more rules about not touching?" Meera chuckled. "Only one rule. You're allowed to hold my hand as much as you want. But the credit cards? Maybe keep a limit." They both burst into laughter, the tension of the past weeks finally gone. In the end, they realized that jokes can sometimes cut deeper than intended, and pride can make the smallest issues grow into mountains. But love, when nurtured with honesty and forgiveness, was always stronger.